When BTS announced their group hiatus in June 2022 to focus on solo projects and mandatory military service, the stock market reacted with panic. HYBE Corporation's shares plummeted by 25% in a single day, wiping out approximately $1.5 billion from the company's market capitalization. Investors were worried about the future of South Korea's largest entertainment label without the world's most profitable K-pop group. However, one name changed everything: Park Jimin. On April 7, 2023, the world witnessed a historic moment. Jimin from BTS became the first Korean solo artist to top the Billboard Hot 100 chart in its 65-year history with his song Like Crazy from his debut solo album, Face. This achievement wasn't just a musical victory. It was a financial earthquake that shook the entire Korean entertainment industry. The stock market's reaction to Jimin's success was explosive and unprecedented. Within 2 days of the news that Like Crazy debuted at number 1 on the Hot 100, HYBE's stock soared dramatically. Data from Billboard showed an extraordinary increase. On the first day after the announcement, shares rose 7.5%. The next day, they climbed another 5.9%, then continued to increase until reaching a cumulative gain of 14.9% within a week. These numbers signified more than just typical market fluctuations. This was an almost complete recovery of investor confidence. With stock prices reaching 217,000 Korean won in April 2023, HYBE hit its highest level since the BTS hiatus announcement 10 months earlier. Even more impressive, within 10 trading days after Jimin's Billboard achievement, HYBE's stock rose 41.3%. But Jimin's impact extended beyond his company's boundaries. According to Korean media reports, the Korea Times reported that the entire Korean entertainment industry experienced an increase in stock values. SM Entertainment saw a 1.87% rise, YG Entertainment climbed 2.12%, and JYP Entertainment increased 0.91%. This was a rare phenomenon, one artist creating a ripple effect that lifted an entire industry sector. Market analysts described this situation as an unprecedented Jimin effect. HYBE was the only company in the Bloomberg Global Music Index that experienced double-digit gains that week, while the overall index actually fell 3.1%. This showed that Jimin's success wasn't part of a broader market trend, but rather an extraordinary individual achievement. To fully understand Jimin's financial power, we need to look deeper into the numbers and the context behind them. The Face album debuted with first-week sales of 1.45 million copies in South Korea, making Jimin the first solo artist in hallyu chart history to reach this number. In the United States, the album entered at number 2 on the Billboard 200 with 164,000 equivalent album units sold, the highest achievement for a Korean solo artist at that time. What made Face truly special was the organic quality of its sales. Circle Retail Album Chart Analysis by K-pop columnist Isaac Choi revealed that Jimin's album had the highest retail sales to company shipment ratio among the top 10 albums of 2023, reaching 87.82%. This meant that almost 9 out of every 10 albums shipped were actually purchased by consumers, an extraordinary indicator of real demand in an industry where albums often pile up in warehouses. Face's annual retail sales reached 1.497 million copies on the Circle chart, making it the best-selling solo album in the chart's history since it began in 2019. This was achieved without conventional industry support like massive radio play, premium playlist placements, or large-scale advertising campaigns, purely driven by global fan demand. Skeptics might argue that the initial stock surge was just an emotional market reaction that would fade. However, the data showed otherwise. On April 17, 2023, 10 trading days after Jimin's Billboard achievement, HYBE stock reached 260,000 won, a sustained increase showing an upward trend for 10 consecutive days, not a speculative spike. Securities analysts provided encouraging projections. Park Soo-young from Hanwha Investment and Securities described HYBE's first quarter 2023 performance as the best performance ever without room to feel BTS's hiatus. The company projected sales of around 470 billion won and operating profit of around 50 billion won for that quarter, exceeding market expectations. Most strikingly was the fact that this stock price returned to levels before the BTS hiatus announcement. Investor fears in June 2022 had proven unfounded. HYBE didn't just survive without full BTS group activities. They thrived, largely thanks to solo activities from members like Jimin. Even as BTS began approaching their military discharge in mid-2025, Jimin's effect was still felt. In June 2025, with 4 BTS members preparing to complete their military service, HYBE's stock reached 302,001, a 6% increase in 5 days, and the highest level since April 2022. This showed that the market wasn't just reacting to one album's success, but recognizing the long-term value of BTS members' individual power. Jimin's financial impact extended beyond albums and music charts. As a brand ambassador, he brought equally impressive power. In January 2023, Jimin was announced as Dior's first global ambassador among solo BTS members. Media reports showed that Dior's stock price rose for the first time in 31 years since listing on the stock market in 1992. Jimin's announcement as Dior's ambassador on the brand's social media received the highest number of likes in their account's history. This wasn't just vanity metrics. It was an indicator of consumer engagement that directly translated into brand value. When luxury brands like Dior and Tiffany and Company secured Jimin as a partner, they weren't just buying a famous face. They were investing in influence that provably moves markets. Tiffany and Company appointed Jimin as brand ambassador in March 2023, celebrating the timeless spirit and uniqueness he brought. His visual campaigns featured the hardware and tea collections, highlighting modernity and individuality. In an industry where celebrity partnerships are commonplace, Jimin stood out for his ability to convert attention into real sales. Even brands outside the luxury industry felt the Jimin effect. Samyang Foods reported significant sales increases after their products appeared in Jimin-related content. This demonstrated the reach of his influence. From haute couture to everyday consumer products, Jimin had a unique ability to move the needle in every category he touched. HYBE's decision to push solo activities during the BTS group hiatus initially seemed risky. Industry conventions suggested that K-pop groups were more profitable than solo artists. Member synergy created stronger fan dynamics and more diverse merchandising opportunities. However, Jimin's success proved that individual BTS members had evolved beyond traditional group dynamics. HYBE's two-pronged strategy during BTS's military hiatus was clear. First, build a multi-label system developing new superstars beyond BTS like NewJeans, 17, and TXT. Second, rely on BTS members' solo releases to satisfy fans until the group reunited in 2025. Jimin's solo release became the perfect case study for the second part of this strategy. With one album, he proved that individual BTS members had sufficient market appeal to sustain HYBE shareholder value during a challenging transition period. This wasn't just about maintaining the status quo, it was about active growth. Jimin's case also taught important lessons about artist portfolio diversification. HYBE was no longer entirely dependent on BTS group activities. Instead, they had built an ecosystem where each member could contribute to the company's financial health independently. This reduced risk and created more stable and predictable revenue streams. One of the most impressive aspects of Jimin's solo success was its extraordinary geographical reach. The Face album didn't just sell out in South Korea and the United States. Pre-orders for the album sold out at retail outlets worldwide, Target stores in America, Universal Music Mexico, Mondadori in Italy, and Universal Music Group Africa all reported their stock sold out, often within hours of restocking. This phenomenon showed something fundamental about Jimin's fan base. They were global, dedicated, and willing to invest their money in his music. This wasn't just digital streaming. These were physical purchases requiring real financial commitment. In an era where physical album sales had declined in many markets, Jimin created demand that revived this business model. Global online platforms like Amazon and Barnes & Noble in the United States, FNAC in Belgium and France, and K-Town4U internationally all listed Face on their bestseller lists almost immediately after pre-orders opened. On K-Town4U, the album immediately topped daily and weekly sales charts, a feat rarely achieved even by established K-pop groups. Jimin's streaming reach was equally impressive. Like crazy, reached 1 billion streams on Spotify just 377 days after its release, making Jimin the fastest South Korean solo artist to reach this milestone. The Face album overall became the most streamed album by a Korean solo artist in Spotify history, surpassing 772 million streams by July 2023. Jimin's success offers several important lessons for the global entertainment industry. First, it showed that members of established groups could successfully transition to solo careers without losing their market power. This wasn't a given. Music history is full of group members who struggled as solo artists. Second, it underscored the importance of artistic authenticity. Face was a deeply personal album, inspired by Jimin's struggles during the COVID-19 pandemic. He openly discussed loneliness, self-doubt, and his questions about identity as an artist. This emotional honesty resonated with global listeners who experienced similar isolation during lockdowns. Third, it proved that traditional marketing wasn't the only path to commercial success. Despite lacking massive radio play, premium playlist placements, or large-scale advertising campaigns, Jimin reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 through the pure power of fans mobilized organically through social media and word of mouth. This was an attractive model for future artists and their labels. Fourth, it demonstrated the value of patience and strategic timing. HYBE didn't rush to release BTS solo projects just to fill a void. They allowed each member to develop their own artistic vision and release music when they were creatively ready. This deliberate approach resulted in higher quality products that resonated more deeply with audiences. To fully appreciate Jimin's achievements, we must place them in the context of other BTS members' solo releases. J-Hope released his solo album Jack in the Box in July 2022, followed by Jin's single The Astronaut in October 2022, and RM's album Indigo in December 2022. Each of these releases was commercially and critically successful. However, Jimin's stock market impact stood out for several reasons. First, its timing. It came when investors were still nervous about the BTS hiatus. Second, the scale of its success. #1 on the Hot 100 was an unprecedented achievement for a Korean solo artist. Third, the ripple effect on the broader industry. The stock increases seen at SM, YG, and JYP showed that his success lifted overall perceptions of solo K-pop as a viable category. Jungkook, BTS's youngest member, later released the single 7 in July 2023, which also broke streaming records on Spotify and caused HYBE stock to rise 3.12% in a day. This reinforced the pattern Jimin established. Solo BTS members have real and measurable market power. As BTS began returning from military service in mid-2025, the success of their solo projects had transformed the landscape for their future. HYBE now had concrete proof that a hybrid business model, combining group activities with strong solo projects, was not only viable but highly profitable. Stock market data from June 2025 showed that investors were optimistic about BTS's full return. with shares reaching 309,001, the highest since April 2022, and increasing 57% year-to-date. HYBE was in its strongest financial position since going public in October 2020. However, some analysts warned that BTS might need to reevaluate their musical direction post-hiatus. A K-pop industry insider commented that while BTS had evolved into a global pop act, they lost much of the raw hip-hop energy that defined their early years. Their solo work retained powerful messages, but a reset of the group's musical identity might be necessary for long-term success. Despite these challenges, Jimin's contribution to HYBE's financial stability during a critical period cannot be overstated. He proved that the company's investment in developing individual artist personalities beyond group dynamics had paid off spectacularly. Beyond financial numbers, Jimin's success represented a significant cultural moment. As the first Korean solo artist to top the Billboard Hot 100, he broke barriers that had existed for more than 6 decades. This wasn't just a personal achievement, it was a milestone for the entire K-pop industry and Asian representation in American mainstream music. The Face album also stood out for its boldness in addressing themes considered taboo in socially conservative South Korea. Jimin openly discussed his struggles with identity, including exploring fluidity in sexuality and gender presentation. Renowned queer photographer Robert Mapplethorpe was featured on Jimin's pants in the Like Crazy music video, a bold visual statement that invited conversations about self-expression and acceptance. By honestly addressing mental health issues, loneliness, and the search for identity, Jimin created space for more open conversations among his fans. Many listeners reported feeling a deep connection with the album because of its honesty. It spoke to the universal experience of isolation and self-transformation amplified by the pandemic. One often overlooked factor in Jimin's success was the highly organized fan engine supporting him. ARMY, BTS's fanbase, had developed extraordinary sophistication in mobilizing support for member projects. For the Face launch, fan groups worldwide coordinated buying campaigns, streaming parties, and social media pushes with military precision. Platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok became battlegrounds for visibility, with fans creating viral content, trending hashtags, and organizing streaming challenges to maximize Jimin's impact. Official listening parties on Stationhead attracted thousands of simultaneous listeners, creating a sense of community and shared event around the music. However, what set Jimin's success apart was that this fan mobilization translated into real purchases, not just inflated digital metrics. The high ratio of retail sales to album shipments showed this was genuine demand, not artificial inflation. Fans weren't just streaming to push charts. They were buying physical albums, merchandise, and event tickets. When we step back to see the complete picture, Jimin's solo success represents more than just a financial success story. It's a case study in how individual star power can transform an entire corporate ecosystem. In 3 months from March to June 2023, Jimin didn't just release a hit album. He changed the narrative about HYBE's future and the broader K-pop industry. The 41.3% stock surge in 10 trading days, increased value for competing entertainment companies, unprecedented chart records, and global brand partnerships all illustrated an artist who had mastered the modern art of building and monetizing a global fan base. He proved that with the right artistic product, authenticity, and smart strategy, solo artists could deliver market impact previously only associated with full groups. For HYBE, the investment in Jimin's solo project didn't just pay off, it exceeded their wildest expectations. The company now had a blueprint for success during transition periods when their main group couldn't operate at full capacity. They learned that individual BTS members weren't just supporting players. They were independent powerhouses capable of sustaining and even growing company value independently. As the global music industry continues to evolve, with traditional business models challenged by digital streaming and changing consumer behavior, Jimin's success offered a roadmap for the future. He showed that authentic connection with audiences, combined with artistic excellence and modern distribution strategies, could create commercial phenomena transcending traditional boundaries of popular music. The legacy of the Face release will be felt far beyond the 2023 charts. It set a new standard for what's possible for K-pop solo artists in the global market. It proved to investors that individual BTS members are valuable assets in their own right. And it showed the entire industry that when talent, timing, and strategy align perfectly, one artist truly can change investor sentiment and transform the fortunes of a multi-billion-dollar company. In the larger narrative of K-pop becoming a global phenomenon, Jimin's chapter stands out as a turning point, a moment when the industry realized that the future wasn't just about groups, but about cultivating individual power that could stand alone and carry the entire industry to new heights. That's a lesson HYBE and the entire Korean music industry will carry into the future as they continue to innovate and expand on the global stage.